Hey, how you doing? This is Jaconda. So, I'm ready for another Behind the Pen, talking about my book, Conversations with Myself, that's available on Amazon. Don't worry, I'll have the link in the description. So, today I want to talk about a poem that I wrote called Old School Worship. I wrote this poem January 22nd, 2023. Now, I grew up in like a storefront church where it wasn't that many members. I've been a member of this church since I was like 6 years old. It's called Tree of Life. And what I remember most about this church is that we had to do old-fashioned devotion, testimony service, saying the scripture in front of everybody, singing like old songs like This Little Light of Mine or Shine on Me, things like that. But what I remember most about it is that I didn't realize how much fun it was. One of the things I loved about doing stuff like that, it was an impromptu thing. It wasn't like so rehearsed or so like, we got to have everything ready to be ready. It was just about praising and serving God. And this is what I learned at 6. I'm 40 years old now, and I still have just as much fun when I go to church. I mean, it's almost like no matter what happens, no matter how bad of a day I'm having, no matter what I'm going through, church for me is like a warm blanket. It's something that's always there and it's always constant. So I wrote a poem about it called Old School Worship. And in that poem, I talk about what that is for me. One of my favorite lines in that poem is that worship that makes you wake up at 6 a.m. and pray, that worship that makes you go to church no matter the weather, that worship that makes you go down on your knees and pray hard. That was something that my grandmother taught me. And mind you, my grandmother, she went to a Catholic church, so we kind of prayed a lot. But it was something that I could depend on no matter what I was going through, no matter how my school day was. That was the one thing that was constant in my life. So when I wrote the poem about that, that is what I was talking about. That was the spirit that I was thinking in, that I needed something that was constant, that was something that was never going to leave, something that no matter what I did, good or bad, it was the one thing that was always going to be there. And when I wrote it, it was like saying hello to an old friend. It was something that made me smile without me even thinking about it. And what's hilariously funny about it is I get to bring that to my son. That same thing that I had when I was a kid is something that I could give him. Ironically, I married a minister. So it was almost like that I've known since we were kids because we grew up together. So it was this thing where church and God was always something in my life, no matter what. It still is. So no matter what I do, how bad it gets, when I'm struggling, it's that one thing that I know is always there. And when I wrote about that in my book, I was hoping that same feeling that I got writing it would pass over to anyone that reads it, that same feeling, that same, my grandmother prayed for me aspect. I love this song called Grandma's Hands. And one of the reasons why I love this song is because I was actually listening to it while I was writing it. And it just gave me this thought of something that's always going to protect you and love you and be there for you when the times get the hardest. And I know growing up with a lot of things going on in my life, the one place I ran to was not only my grandmother, but it was church. It was God. I was searching for something and didn't understand what it was. And I figured that out at 6. So when I wrote this poem, that's where my mind went. So that's just a little bit behind Old School Worship. You can definitely find that in this book, Conversations with Myself. I hope you read it. It's on Amazon, paperback, Kindle, and hardcover. So I invite you to read it, and I'll see you again next week with another Behind the Pen. Have a great day. Peace.